You're walking home. It's raining. Something metallic catches the street light in the gutter, half buried in mud. You pick it up. It's a phone. But it's wrong. There's no button, no port, no logo you recognize. And when you wipe the mud away, the screen turns on by itself, like it already knows you're holding it. At first you think it's broken. There's no app grid, no lock screen, no battery icon. Just a single word floating in the center, waiting. You tap it out of curiosity more than anything else, and the phone answers a question you never asked out loud. It tells you what time your bus will actually arrive, not the scheduled time, the real one, accounting for traffic that hasn't happened yet. You laugh it off. Then you check. It's right down to the minute. That's the moment most people would stop and think. But you don't. You test it again. You ask it something bigger. A stock, a coin, a number that hasn't moved yet in the world you're standing in. The phone shows you tomorrow's close before today has even finished. And when tomorrow arrives, the number matches exactly. This is where the story usually goes one of two ways in people's imaginations. Either the device is magic, or it's a hoax. But there's a third option, and it's the one grounded in something real. If a device like this existed, physicist Michio Kaku has already described the kind of computational leap that would make it possible. Not magic, just prediction taken to its logical extreme. A machine that models the world so precisely that outcomes stop looking like guesses and start looking like facts that simply haven't happened yet. So you keep using it. Quietly at first. You pay off a debt. You avoid an accident you didn't know was coming, swerving a half second before a car runs a light you couldn't have seen. You start to feel less like a person carrying a phone and more like a person being carried by one. And this is where the story stops being fun and starts being dangerous, because information like this was never meant to move through the world one person at a time. You get curious about medicine. The phone gives you a molecule, a structure, something that shouldn't exist yet, paired with a note that it cures a disease currently costing pharmaceutical companies billions in ongoing treatment revenue. You get curious about energy. It shows you a battery design decades ahead of anything on a lab bench today. Each answer feels like a gift, but every gift like this has a mirror image, because somewhere, an economy has been quietly built around the disease staying incurable and the battery staying inefficient. There's a name for what happens when new technology enters an economy built on the old one. Economist Joseph Schumpeter called it creative destruction, the process by which innovation doesn't just add value, it demolishes entire industries on its way in. Normally, that process takes years, sometimes decades, giving markets time to adjust. What you're holding doesn't work on that timeline. It works in an afternoon, and markets that adjust in decades do not survive being rewritten in an afternoon. You start to notice something else too. The predictions are getting harder to keep to yourself. A friend asks how you knew. A coworker asks how you called it. You brush it off, but somewhere, in a room you'll never see, someone else is asking a very different question. Not how did you know, but how does something know things it has no way of knowing? This is where the men in black stop being a joke from an old movie and start being a real historical pattern. Throughout the 20th century, whenever a private individual stumbled onto information that threatened national security or destabilized markets, quiet visits followed, not always dramatic. Sometimes just a knock, a badge, a conversation that ends with the object being taken and the individual being told, gently but firmly, that this never happened. You don't need aliens for that story to be plausible. You just need information valuable enough that someone with power decides you shouldn't have it. So imagine the knock. Two people at your door who don't identify with a company name. They know things about you they shouldn't. They ask calmly where the device is. And in that moment, holding something that can predict tomorrow, you finally ask the question you should have asked on day one. Not what can this do, but who sent it and why. There are really only two possibilities, and both are worth sitting with. The first is that it was sent back as a gift. A future version of humanity, watching some catastrophe unfold in their own timeline, decides to reach backward and hand the past a shortcut, a way to skip decades of suffering, disease, energy scarcity, all of it solved in advance. Neuroscientist Miguel Nicolelis spent years proving that a brain will absorb a machine as part of itself if the feedback loop is fast enough. Maybe the sender understood that too. Maybe the plan was never really about the device. Maybe it was about what holding it would do to you and, through you, to everyone you touched. The second possibility is colder. What if the device wasn't sent to help the past at all, but to destroy it? Every economy the phone quietly wrecks. Every institution that collapses because its secrets got answered a century early. Every war that starts because two nations suddenly know exactly what the other is planning. If you wanted to erase a version of the future without ever setting foot in it, you wouldn't need a weapon. You'd just need to hand the past too much truth, too quickly, and let it tear itself apart from the inside. Both stories fit the same object. Both stories fit the same knock on your door, and that's the part that should actually unsettle you, not the men in black, not the stock predictions, not even the cure sitting unused in your pocket. It's that you can't tell the difference between a gift and a weapon just by looking at what it can do. You can only tell by what it does to the people who use it. Which brings you back to the door and the two people waiting on the other side, and the object still warm in your hand. You could hand it over. You could pretend you never found it. Or you could do the thing every version of this story eventually leads to. The thing that makes it dangerous in the first place. You could keep it and start asking it the one question it hasn't answered yet. Not what happens tomorrow, but what happens to the world decades from now, if a phone like this stays in someone's pocket instead of a government vault. You never get to hear the answer. The knock comes again, louder this time. And somewhere outside, in the rain, someone else is walking home, about to find something metallic in the gutter, half buried in mud, already turning itself on before they've even picked it up.